Billionaire CEO mocked his wife for being fat. Years later, she made him regret it. The rain hammered against the gates of the Ikoyi mansion like angry fists demanding entry. Demola stood there, drenched to the bone, his designer shirt, now 2 seasons old and slightly frayed at the collar, clinging to his thin frame. He'd lost weight, not the good kind. The kind that comes from stress, from sleepless nights, from watching everything you built crumble like sandcastles before high tide. He pressed the intercom button again and again.
Please.
Aduni, please. I know you can hear me.
Please.
Baby, please, just
let me explain.
Just let me explain. His voice cracked. The same voice that once barked orders at board meetings, that closed Billionaire deals with a whisper, that told her she was too fat to be seen in public, now trembled with desperation. Through the ornate iron gates, he could see the circular driveway where a sleek Mercedes G-Wagon sat, midnight black, brand new, with customized plates that read "Worth It." Not his. He'd lost his fleet of cars 3 weeks ago when the bailiffs came. The intercom crackled to life, but it wasn't her voice. Mr. Demola, a calm, deep voice said, a man's voice. Ms. Adeyemi has made it clear she has nothing to say to you. Please leave the premises before we call security. Miss Adeyemi, not Mrs. Coker. She'd taken back her father's name. Demola's knees nearly buckled. Who is this? Put my wife on the phone. Your wife. The voice held a hint of amusement. Sir, you must be confused. Please leave now. The intercom went dead. Demola sank against the gate, his back sliding down the wet iron bars. 6 months ago, this was his gate, his mansion, his company, his wife. Now he couldn't even afford the Uber back to his one-room apartment in Sur-Alaire. How did it come to this? How did the woman he'd called elephant, hippo, and worse, the woman whose confidence he'd shattered piece by piece, how did she end up with everything while he had nothing? The answer, like most disasters, began years ago with a single choice. The choice to take everything she offered and give back only cruelty. But before we dive into the story of betrayal, transformation, and the kind of revenge that'll make you stand up and cheer, I want to connect with you. Yes, you watching right now. Where are you watching from? Drop your location in the comments because it makes me connect better with you. And listen, if you love stories about karma, justice, and people getting exactly what they deserve, don't just comment. Ensure you like, share, and hit that subscribe button right now. Now let's rewind. Let's go back to where it all began. Aduni Adeyemi was the kind of woman who stopped traffic, literally. Not because she tried, but because beauty like hers demanded attention, the way the sun demands you shield your eyes. At 24, she moved through the world with the unconscious grace of someone who'd never been told she was anything less than extraordinary. Her father, Chief Solomon Adeyemi, had built Adeyemi Holdings from the ground up, a conglomerate spanning real estate, importation, and manufacturing. The headquarters alone occupied 3 floors of a glass tower in Vice, and Aduni, fresh from her master's degree at LSE, was being groomed to take over. But that particular Saturday evening, as she stepped out of her champagne-colored Range Rover at Terra Culture for her best friend's art exhibition, she wasn't thinking about board meetings or profit margins. She was thinking about the text message that had made her smile on the drive over. I'm already here. Can't wait to see you. Demola Coker. They'd met 3 months prior at a friend's wedding. He wasn't wealthy. He worked as a mid-level manager at an oil servicing company, driving a modest Honda Accord and living in a decent but unremarkable flat in Lekki Phase 1. What he had, though, was ambition wrapped in charm and sealed with a smile that made her forget she was Chief Adeyemi's daughter. There's my queen, Demola said as she approached, his eyes lighting up in a way that made her stomach flutter. He kissed her cheek, his hand settling naturally at the small of her back. She was wearing a fitted emerald dress that hugged every curve of her size 8 figure, her natural hair styled in elegant twists that cascaded past her shoulders. You're staring, she teased. Can you blame me? He gestured at her with genuine awe. Aduni, I swear, every man in this building is wondering how a regular guy like me got so lucky. She laughed, the sound like wind chimes. Stop it, Jar. You'll make my head swell. Let it swell. You deserve to know how incredible you are. If only she'd known those would be some of the last kind words he'd speak to her for years to come. Their courtship was intense. Demola pursued her with the single-minded focus of a man who'd spotted his golden ticket and refused to let it slip away. And Aduni? She fell deeply, completely, foolishly in love. Not with his modest salary or his rented apartment. She fell for the way he listened when she talked about her dreams. The way he showed up at her office with lunch when she texted that she was swamped. The way he made her feel like she was just a Duni. Not Chief Adeyemi's daughter, not the heiress, just a woman worth loving for herself. My parents want to meet you, she told him 6 months into their relationship, as they sat in his small living room watching a Nollywood movie. Demola's eyes widened. Seriously? You told them about me? Of course I did. She shifted to face him fully. Demola, I'm not playing games here. I see a future with you. Something flickered across his face, triumph maybe or calculation, but it vanished so quickly she convinced herself she'd imagined it. Baby, he said, taking her hands in his, I'm not going to lie, I'm intimidated. Your father is Chief Solomon Adeyemi. I'm just me. A nobody trying to make something of himself. You're not a nobody to me. But will I be enough for him? For your family? Aduni's heart swelled with protective love. You're enough for me. That's all that matters. The meeting with her parents was complicated. Chief Adeyemi, a shrewd man who'd navigated the cutthroat world of Nigerian business for 3 decades, assessed Demola with the sharp eyes of someone who could spot a con artist from 3 miles away. So young man, the chief said, leaning back in his leather chair in the family's Banana Island home, what exactly are your intentions with my daughter? Demola didn't flinch. Sir, I won't insult your intelligence by pretending I'm in her league financially. I'm not, but I love her, genuinely, and I want to build a life with her, even if it takes me years to get to where she is. Chief Adeyemi studied him for a long moment. Love is important, but so is character. My daughter is my most precious treasure. If you hurt her, you'll answer to me. Understood? Yes, sir. Aduni's mother, Mrs. Folake Adeyemi, was warmer but no less observant. Over dinner, she watched how Demola interacted with her daughter, attentive but not overbearing, ambitious but seemingly genuine. After they left, Mrs. Adeyemi turned to her husband. What do you think? Chief Adeyemi sighed. I think our daughter is in love, and I think that young man is smart enough to know exactly what he's gotten himself into. You don't trust him. I don't trust anyone who looks at my daughter and sees opportunity. But, he paused, his expression softening. She's happy. For now, that's enough. But I'm watching him. They were married 14 months after they met, in a lavish ceremony at the Civic Center in Victoria Island. 2,000 guests. A dress imported from Vera Wang. A reception that was talked about in Lagos social circles for months. On their wedding night, in the presidential suite of the Echo Hotel, Aduni presented Demola with an envelope. What's this? He asked, loosening his bow tie. Open it. Inside were documents, legal documents. His hands trembled slightly as he read through them. Aduni, you're making me CEO of Adeyemi Holdings? She smiled, radiant in her happiness. My father is ready to step back. He trusts me and I trust you. We'll run it together, partners in everything. Demola's eyes glistened, with tears, she thought, with joy. She didn't recognize the greed. Baby, I don't know what to say. This is everything. Say you'll love me forever, she whispered, wrapping her arms around his neck. Say we'll build this empire together. Say I'll always be enough for you. He kissed her deeply. Always. You're my queen, my everything, I promise. Some promises are made of sand. Beautiful to look at, but wash away with the first wave. The change didn't happen overnight. It was gradual, like a sunset you don't notice until suddenly everything is dark. Aduni got pregnant 4 months after the wedding. It was planned, wanted, celebrated. But pregnancy brought changes her body wasn't prepared for. She'd always been naturally slim, maintaining her figure with minimal effort. But with pregnancy came weight gain. Normal, healthy weight gain that her doctor assured her was perfect for the baby. Demola's compliments, once abundant, became sparse. "Are you sure you should be eating that?" he'd ask when she reached for a second serving at dinner. "The doctor said I'm supposed to gain weight, baby, it's normal." "Yeah, but you don't want to overdo it. You know how hard it is to lose baby weight." She laughed it off. He was just concerned about her health, right? Their daughter, Tomiwa, was born healthy and beautiful. But Aduni's body didn't snap back the way Instagram posts had led her to believe it would. And then the real nightmare began. 6 weeks postpartum, still recovering, still adjusting to motherhood, she stood in front of their bedroom mirror in her underwear, trying to recognize herself. Demola walked in, loosening his tie after work. His eyes swept over her, and for the first time she saw it clearly. Disgust. "Jesus Christ, Aduni, what happened to you?" The words hit like a slap. I just had a baby. Your baby, it hasn't even been 2 months." "I know that," he snapped, interrupting her. But other women bounce back. Look at Genevieve Naji. Look at Tiwa Savage. They have kids and they're still fine. They have personal trainers, chefs, nannies. And you have all of that too. Or did you forget you're running a multi-billion naira company? He moved closer, his voice dropping to a cruel whisper. "You gave me this company, Aduni. You made me CEO. The least you could do is look the part of a CEO's wife." Tears burned her eyes. "Demola, please, I'm trying. Try harder." He walked out, leaving her standing there, staring at her reflection, suddenly seeing herself through his eyes. Fat, undesirable. Not enough. It was the first time, it wouldn't be the last. What Aduni didn't know, what she couldn't know, was that something else was happening to her body. Something beyond normal postpartum changes. The weight kept coming, and coming. No matter what she did, diets, exercise, breastfeeding, the numbers on the scale climbed. Her face rounded. Her clothes stopped fitting. She developed dark patches on her skin and her periods became irregular. She was exhausted all the time. Her hair thinned. She craved sugar constantly. But instead of concern, Demola offered only contempt. "Are you just going to sit there eating a car all day?" he'd sneer when he found her having breakfast. "Look at yourself, Aduni. You're turning into a whale." At company events, he'd walk 3 steps ahead of her as if associating with her embarrassed him. Once, at a gala dinner at Eco Hotel, she overheard him talking to his friends. "Honestly, guys, I don't know what happened. She used to be so fine. Now I can barely stand to look at her." His friends laughed. She stood frozen behind a pillar, her hand clutching her purse, her heart shattering into pieces so small she'd never find them all. It was her mother who finally insisted she see a doctor. "Aduni, something is not right," Mrs. Adeyemi said, worry etched in her face as she visited one afternoon and found her daughter winded from simply climbing the stairs. "This is not normal weight gain. Mummy, I'm just eating too much. Demola is right." "Demola is a fool," her mother said sharply. "And you're going to see Dr. Okonkwo tomorrow. I've already made the appointment." The diagnosis came after a battery of tests: polycystic ovary syndrome, severe hypothyroidism, and insulin resistance. A perfect storm of hormonal issues that made weight gain almost inevitable and weight loss nearly impossible without proper treatment. "This explains everything," Dr. Okonkwo said gently, showing her the test results. "Your body isn't processing hormones correctly. This isn't about willpower or diet. This is a medical condition that needs treatment." Aduni felt a strange mixture of relief and despair. Relief that there was a reason. Despair because she knew Demola wouldn't care. She was right. A condition? He scoffed when she tried to explain it that evening. So now you have an excuse for letting yourself go? That's convenient. It's not an excuse. The doctor said. I don't care what some doctor said. I care that my wife looks like she swallowed a balloon. Do you know how embarrassing it is for me? People are starting to talk, Aduni. Oh, Demola, your wife has really filled out. He mimicked the gossip with cruel accuracy. I'm starting treatment. Treatment? He laughed bitterly. The only treatment you need is to push yourself away from the dining table. That night, Aduni locked herself in the bathroom and cried until her throat was raw. The woman in the mirror, puffy-faced, dark circles under her eyes, body swollen and unrecognizable, stared back at her with hollow eyes. Where did I go? She whispered to her reflection. But the woman in the mirror had no answers. She disappeared somewhere between I do and I don't love you anymore. And the worst part, the absolute worst part, deep down, despite the diagnosis, despite the doctor's explanations, despite her mother's support, Aduni was starting to believe Demola was right. Maybe she was disgusting. Maybe she was lazy. Maybe she deserved every cruel word, every look of disgust, every time he came home smelling of another woman's perfume. Maybe this was exactly what she deserved for having the audacity to love him in the first place. The descent into darkness had begun, and she had no idea how far down she would fall before someone would finally catch her, or if anyone would catch her at all. 2 years into their marriage, Demola stopped pretending. The mask he'd worn during courtship, the attentive boyfriend, the grateful husband, the man who'd once looked at Aduni like she hung the moon, cracked completely and fell away, revealing something ugly underneath. Something that had perhaps always been there, waiting. It started with the comments. Constant, relentless, designed to cut. You're gonna wear that? To the board meeting? He'd look her up and down with undisguised contempt. You know what, never mind. Just try not to embarrass me. Or at dinner parties. My wife used to turn heads. Now she turns stomachs. He'd say it with a laugh, like it was a joke, while their friends shifted uncomfortably, and Aduni wished the floor would swallow her whole. But words, as painful as they were just the beginning. The first time he pushed her, she made excuses. They were arguing about her attending a charity gala. She'd bought a new dress, expensive, elegant, tailored to flatter her changed body. She'd spent hours getting ready, her makeup flawless, her hair styled by her personal stylist. She'd actually felt beautiful for the first time in months. You're not wearing that, Demola said flatly when she emerged from the dressing room. What? Why not? I just bought this. Because you look ridiculous, Aduni, like a sausage squeezed into casing. Go change. Something in her snapped. No, I'm wearing this. I feel good in this. His eyes went cold. I said go change. And I said no. He crossed the room in 3 strides and grabbed her arm, his fingers digging into her flesh hard enough to bruise. Don't embarrass me tonight. Go. Change, now. Then he shoved her, not hard enough to make her fall, but hard enough to make his point. She stood there, arm throbbing, tears streaming down her face, and went to change into something looser, darker, more concealing. At the gala, he introduced her to people with, "This is my wife, Aduni. She's been dealing with some health issues, as if her body was a problem to be explained away. She smiled through it all, the perfect wife, while dying inside piece by piece." Demola didn't even try to hide his affairs. The first one she discovered by accident, a text message that flashed across his phone screen while he was in the shower. Last night was amazing, baby. When can I see you again? Her hands trembled as she picked up the phone. She knew his password. He'd never changed it from their anniversary date, probably because he didn't think she'd ever dare to check. The messages went back months, multiple women, explicit photos, hotel reservations, promises of love that he'd once made only to her. When he emerged from the shower, towel around his waist, she was sitting on the bed with his phone in her hand. Who is Vanessa? Her voice was eerily calm. He didn't even have the decency to look ashamed. None of your business. You're my husband. It's absolutely my business. He snatched the phone from her hand. You went through my phone? What gives you the right to cheat on me? Oh, please. He laughed. Actually laughed. You're shocked? Aduni, look at yourself. Really look. You think I want to come home to this? He gestured at her body with disgust. Vanessa is 23. She's a size 6. She actually takes care of herself. She makes me feel like a man. And what do I make you feel like? Trapped. The word hung in the air like poison gas. You trapped me with this company, with this marriage, with your father's expectations. The least you could do is look like someone I'd actually want to sleep with. She couldn't breathe. The room spun. Get out, she whispered. This is my house now, remember? You signed it all over to me. Where exactly do you expect me to go? The realization hit her like ice water. He was right. In her love and trust, she'd transferred everything, the company, their properties, even the house they lived in, into his name as CEO and husband. Legally, she owned nothing. She'd given him everything, including the power to destroy her. Then I'll leave, she said, standing up. His hand shot out and grabbed her wrist, yanking her back down onto the bed. You're not going anywhere. You think your parents won't ask questions if you suddenly leave? You think I'll let you run back to Daddy and tell stories about how mean I am to you? He leaned in close, his breath hot on her face. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to stay. You're going to smile in public. You're going to play the perfect wife. And in private, you're going to stay out of my way and stop asking questions about what I do and who I do it with. Understood? She should have fought. She should have screamed. She should have called her father right then and there. But depression is a strange beast. It convinces you that you deserve the punishment, that you're not worth saving, that this is simply what happens to women who have the audacity to become unattractive. So she nodded, and he let her go. And she went to sleep in the guest bedroom, wondering when exactly her life had become a prison. If private cruelty was the nail, public humiliation was the hammer that drove it home. 3 months later, at the annual Adeyemi Holdings Gala, a prestigious event that drew Nigeria's elite, Demola showed up with Vanessa. Not as his date, officially. She was there as a business consultant. But everyone knew. The whispers followed them like shadows. Aduni, dressed in a flowing navy gown that she hoped hid her body, stood near the bar watching her husband laugh with his mistress. Vanessa was everything Aduni used to be, petite, confident, glowing. She wore a red dress that hugged her curves, and Demola's hand rested possessively on her lower back, the same way he used to touch Aduni. A lifetime ago. Aduni, darling, Mrs. Ogunlaye, one of Lagos's most notorious gossips, materialized at her elbow. You look, well, comfortable. The emphasis on comfortable was deliberate, a polite way of saying fat. Thank you, Aduni forced out. And your husband seems to be quite close with that young consultant. What's her name again? Vanessa. Ah, yes, Vanessa. Such a striking girl. You must be so secure in your marriage to allow him to work so closely with someone like that. The woman's smile was all teeth, no warmth. Excuse me, Aduni mumbled and fled to the bathroom. She locked herself in a stall and tried to breathe through the panic attack that was closing her throat. Through the walls, she could hear other women entering. Did you see Demola with that girl? I know, poor Aduni. I mean, I'd cheat too if my wife let herself go like that. Right? She used to be so beautiful. What happened? Lazy probably, and the baby, and just gave up. Well, she can't be surprised. Men like Demola don't settle for less. Their laughter echoed off the tiles. Aduni sat in that stall for 20 minutes, tears streaming silently down her face, hands pressed over her mouth to keep from sobbing out loud. When she finally emerged, makeup ruined, eyes swollen, she found Demola waiting outside the bathroom. Pull yourself together, he hissed. You're making a scene. I can't do this anymore, she whispered. Please, Demola, please can we just go home? For a moment, just a fleeting moment, something that might have been guilt flickered across his face. Then it was gone. Fine, but stop crying. You look pathetic. That night, when they got home, he didn't even come to bed. She heard him on the phone in his study, his voice low and intimate. Yeah, baby. I'll be at yours tomorrow night. No, she won't suspect anything. She's too busy feeling sorry for herself. Aduni stood outside his study door, listening, something inside her breaking irrevocably. The medicine cabinet in their bathroom held sleeping pills, strong ones, prescribed after Tomiwa's birth when Aduni's insomnia had become unbearable. It was 2 a.m. on a Tuesday. Demola was out, at Vanessa's, probably, or maybe one of the other women whose names she didn't even know anymore. Tomiwa was asleep upstairs with her nanny. Beautiful, innocent Tomiwa, who deserved better than a mother who was too broken to function. Aduni sat on the bathroom floor, the pill bottle in her hand, and thought about how peaceful it would be to simply stop. Stop feeling. Stop hurting. Stop being the punchline to everyone's joke. She opened the bottle. 30 pills tumbled into her palm. I'm sorry, baby girl, she thought, looking toward the ceiling as if she could see through it to her daughter's room. You'll be better off without me. Your father will find someone new, someone beautiful, someone who won't embarrass you at parent-teacher meetings. She took one pill, then another, then another. By the time she'd swallowed 10, her vision was already blurring. Just a few more, she thought. Then peace. The bathroom door crashed open. Aduni, no! Her mother. Why was her mother here? Mrs. Folklore Adeyemi hadn't been able to sleep, plagued by a mother's intuition that something was wrong. She'd driven from Banana Island to Ikoyi at 2 a.m., let herself in with the spare key Aduni had given her, and found her daughter on the bathroom floor, pill bottle in hand, slipping away. What followed was a blur. Stomach pumping, psychiatric evaluation, her father's anguished tears, her mother's guilt-ridden face. And Demola? Demola showed up at the hospital 8 hours later, looking annoyed. What were you thinking? He demanded. Not, are you okay? Or, thank God you're alive. Just anger that she dared to cause a scene. I can't live like this anymore, she said weakly from the hospital bed. So your solution is to kill yourself? To abandon your daughter? He lowered his voice, aware of the nurses nearby. Do you have any idea what this will do to my reputation if people find out? To the company? Not what this will do to Tomiwa. Not what this will do to you, to his reputation, to the company, her company, the one she'd given him. Get some rest, he said curtly. I'll tell people you had food poisoning. Then he left. And Aduni stared at the ceiling, realizing that she'd failed even at dying. The second attempt came 6 months later. Pills again, but this time her mother wasn't there to save her. The housekeeper found her and called an ambulance. The third attempt, 4 months after that, was different. More desperate. She stood on the balcony of their bedroom, 30 feet above the marble driveway, and looked down. One step. That's all it would take. Mummy? Tomiwa's voice, small and scared, came from behind her. Aduni turned. Her daughter, 3 years old, stood in the doorway clutching her teddy bear, eyes wide with confusion and fear. Mummy, why are you standing there? Aduni climbed down from the balcony ledge, legs shaking, and scooped her daughter into her arms, sobbing. I'm sorry, baby. Mummy's sorry. Mummy's so sorry. That night, after Tomiwa fell asleep, Aduni made a decision. She couldn't keep doing this. But not because she'd found some inner strength or realized her worth. No, she couldn't keep doing this because next time, her daughter might be the one who found her body. And that was the only thing that mattered anymore. The only thing keeping her tethered to a life she no longer wanted. Not self-love, not hope, not even dignity. Just the knowledge that Tomiwa deserved a mother. Even a broken one. So she stopped trying to die and started trying to simply exist. Existing, it turned out, was its own kind of death. Slower, more painful, but sustainable. She moved through her days like a ghost, attending board meetings but letting Damola make all the decisions, staying silent when he berated her, sleeping in the guest room permanently, avoiding mirrors, avoiding people, avoiding herself. She gained more weight. The medical condition left mostly untreated because she could barely function enough to keep up with appointments worsened. At her lowest, she weighed 112 kilograms. Her face was round and puffy. Her body was unrecognizable. Her spirit was shattered. And Damola? Damola was thriving. CEO of a multi-billionaire company, respected businessman, bachelor lifestyle, because everyone knew his wife was basically irrelevant. Multiple mistresses who were all younger, prettier, more convenient. He had everything he'd ever wanted. Except one thing he didn't know he needed. Karma. And karma, patient and precise, was already setting the stage for his downfall. The company's annual stakeholder meeting in Abuja was the last place Aduni wanted to be. But as a board member, in name at least, her presence was required. She sat in the back of the conference room at Transcorp Hilton, barely listening to Damola's presentation when someone slid into the seat next to her. Aduni Adeyemi? Is that really you? She turned, ready to deflect whoever was about to make a comment about her appearance. But the man next to her was smiling, genuinely smiling, with eyes full of warmth and recognition, not judgment. I'm sorry, do I? She trailed off, searching his face. Yemi Adewale. We were in the same class at King's College. I sat behind you in economics. You used to let me copy your notes when I overslept. Memory clicked into place. Yemi? Quiet, brilliant Yemi who'd been obsessed with chess and had dreams of becoming a doctor. Yemi! Oh my God, I can't believe, what are you doing here? I'm a consultant with the health sector. Just here for the stakeholder presentations. He studied her face and she braced for the inevitable. For the, what happened to you, or the barely concealed shock. Instead he said, you look tired, are you okay? It was such a simple question, asked with such genuine concern. And Aduni, who'd spent 3 years being told she was worthless, who'd survived 3 suicide attempts, who'd forgotten what kindness felt like. She burst into tears right there in the conference room. Yemi didn't panic, didn't make a scene. He simply handed her his handkerchief, gently took her arm, and led her out of the room into a quiet corridor. I'm so sorry, she gasped, trying to pull herself together. I don't know what. Don't apologize. Breathe. Just breathe. They stood there for 10 minutes while she cried 3 years' worth of tears into a stranger's, no, an old friend's, handkerchief. When she finally calmed down, embarrassed and exhausted, she expected him to make an excuse and leave. Instead, he said, have you eaten? Let's get coffee, or something stronger. You look like you could use it. She should have said no, should have gone back to the conference room, back to sitting silently while her husband ran her father's company into profitable ground. But she was so tired of should. Yes, she whispered. Please. They sat in the hotel restaurant for 2 hours. At first, they talked about safe things, their school days, mutual friends, his work as a medical consultant specializing in endocrinology. But then, slowly, carefully, he asked, what happened to Dunny? And please don't say nothing. Remy, I remember you. You were vibrant, full of life, the girl who debated professors and won. What happened to her? And maybe it was because he was someone from before Damola, before the wait, before she forgot who she used to be. Or maybe it was because she'd been silent for so long that the words were clawing their way out. She told him. Not everything, not yet, but enough. The weight gain, the diagnosis no one took seriously. Damola's cruelty, the loneliness, the darkness. Yemi listened without interrupting, his expression growing darker as she spoke. When she finished, he was quiet for a long moment. Then he said something that would change everything. Aduni, PCOS and hypothyroidism are completely manageable. With the right treatment, with proper care, you could feel like yourself again. Have you been seeing an endocrinologist? I tried, but it's expensive and... Wait. You're on the board of a multi-billionaire company and you can't afford medical treatment. She looked away, ashamed. It's complicated. Complicated how? And there it was. The truth she'd never said out loud. I don't have access to any money. Everything is in my husband's name. Yemi's jaw tightened. Everything? The company, the houses, the bank accounts. I signed it all over when we got married. I thought we were partners. Aduni. His voice was gentle but firm. That's not a partnership, that's financial abuse. And from what you've described, it's not just financial. The words hung between them. Abuse. She'd never let herself think it before. I need to get back, she said suddenly, standing up. Demola will wonder where? Will he hurt you if you're late? The question stopped her cold. Not physically, not really. He gets angry. Has he ever pushed you? Grabbed you? Anything? Her silence was answer enough. Yemi stood, pulling out a business card. I'm staying in Abuja for 3 more days. This has my personal number on it. I want you to call me. Not today, not tomorrow if you're not ready. But when you are, call me. Please. She took the card with shaking hands. I specialize in hormonal disorders, he continued. I can help you with the medical stuff. But more than that, I think you need a friend. Someone who remembers who you were before all of this. Someone who can remind you that you're still that person underneath everything. I don't know if she still exists, Aduni whispered. She does. And we're going to find her again. I promise. It was the first promise anyone had made her in years that felt like hope instead of chains. She tucked his card into her purse and went back to the conference room, where Demola was schmoozing potential investors and didn't even notice she'd been gone. That night, alone in her hotel room, while Demola was out doing God knows what with God knows who, Aduni pulled out Yemi's card and stared at it. She didn't call. Not yet. But she didn't throw it away either. And for the first time in 3 years, somewhere deep inside the ruins of who she used to be, something stirred. Not quite hope. Not yet. But maybe. Just maybe. The faintest possibility that she didn't have to live like this forever. That there might be another way. That she might survive this after all. The seed was planted. Now it just needed time to grow. 3 weeks passed before Aduni found the courage to call. 3 weeks of the same routine. Wake up, feel worthless, avoid Demola, play with Tomiwa, pretend everything was fine, go to sleep alone, repeat. But Yemi's card stayed in her wallet. She'd take it out sometimes late at night and just stare at the numbers. A lifeline she was too afraid to grab. Until one Thursday afternoon when everything changed. She was in the kitchen preparing Tomiwa's lunch when Demola walked in with a woman. Not Vanessa. Someone new. Younger, if possible. She couldn't have been more than 21. Aduni, this is Jessica. She's the new executive assistant I hired. His tone was casual, like he was introducing a colleague, not another conquest. Jessica looked Aduni up and down with barely concealed disdain, then smiled sweetly. Nice to meet you, Ma. Ma, like Aduni was old, ancient, irrelevant. Jessica will be accompanying me to the Singapore conference next week, Demola continued. You know, to take notes and handle logistics. Of course, Aduni heard herself say. That's nice. Demola smirked. He was enjoying this. Enjoying flaunting his power, his women, his complete control over her dignity. After they left, his hand already on Jessica's lower back, Aduni stood in the kitchen, trembling. Then she pulled out her phone and dialed before she could talk herself out of it. Hello? Yemi's voice was professional, slightly distracted. It's Aduni. Aduni Adeyemi. We met in Abuja. Aduni. The distraction vanished, replaced by warmth. I'm so glad you called. I've been thinking about you. How are you? Such a simple question. But the way he asked it, like he genuinely cared about the answer, made her throat tighten. I'm not okay. You were right. About everything. And I don't know what to do, but I can't keep living like this. Okay. That's good. That's the first step. Admitting you need help. Where are you right now? Home, in Lagos. Are you safe? She almost laughed. Safe? What a concept. He's not here. He's never here. Good. Listen, I have consultations until 6, but I'm flying to Lagos tomorrow for a medical conference at Echo Hotel. Can you meet me? We'll talk properly. No pressure, no judgment, just talk. Yes, she said, surprising herself with how quickly the word came out. Yes, I can do that. Aduni? One more thing. You're going to get through this. I know it doesn't feel like it right now, but you are, I promise. That word again. Promise. This time she wanted to believe it. They met in one of the hotel's private lounges. Aduni had agonized over what to wear, finally settling on a loose-fitting kaftan that hid her body. She'd barely slept the night before, terrified Demola would somehow find out, even though he was in Singapore with Jessica. Yemi was already there when she arrived, and he stood immediately, greeting her with that same warm smile that held no judgment. Thank you for coming, he said as they sat down. I know this wasn't easy. I almost didn't, she admitted. I've been sitting in my car in the parking lot for 20 minutes trying to convince myself not to just drive away. But you didn't. That takes courage. It doesn't feel like courage. It feels like desperation. Sometimes, Yemi said gently, they're the same thing. They talked for hours. This time Aduni told him everything. The company transfer, the verbal abuse, the affairs, the suicide attempts, the complete loss of herself. Yemi listened, taking notes occasionally, his expression growing more concerned. Okay, he said finally. Let's start with what I can help with immediately. Your health. You said you were diagnosed with PCOS and hypothyroidism? Yes, but I haven't been consistent with treatment. It's hard to focus on appointments when you're surviving abuse. I understand. He pulled out a tablet. Here's what we're going to do. I want you to see my colleague, Dr. Adebayo. She's the best endocrinologist in Lagos. She'll run a full panel, adjust your medications, and create a proper treatment plan. Yemi, I can't afford. You're not paying. Consider it professional courtesy between colleagues. Besides, he added with a small smile, you used to let me copy your notes. I'm just returning the favor. Despite everything, Aduni felt her lips twitch. Almost a smile. She couldn't remember the last time she'd smiled. The medication will help with the hormonal imbalance, Yemi continued. But I'm not going to lie to you. It's not a magic pill. It'll take time, consistency, and you'll need to work on your nutrition and movement too. But it is manageable. You can feel better. And the weight? Will likely reduce once we get your hormones balanced. But Aduni? He looked at her seriously. Even if it doesn't, even if your body never looks the way it did before, you still deserve respect. You still deserve love. You still deserve to exist without being made to feel worthless. Your worth isn't tied to your dress size. Tears spilled down her cheeks. I forgot that. I forgot that I was a person who mattered. Then we'll help you remember. Over the next 2 months, Yemi became the friend Aduni didn't know she needed. He checked in daily. Just a text asking how she was feeling, if she'd eaten, if she'd taken her medication. Nothing intrusive, just consistent care. Dr. Adebayo was equally wonderful. Patient, thorough, and most importantly, believing. She listened when Aduni described her symptoms, adjusted medications, monitored her progress. Your thyroid was severely underactive, Dr. Adebayo explained during one visit, and your insulin resistance was off the charts. No wonder you were gaining weight. Your body was fighting against you. My husband said I was just lazy. Dr. Adebayo's expression hardened. Your husband is medically ignorant and emotionally abusive. This is a condition, not a character flaw. Slowly, painfully slowly, things began to shift. The medication helped with the exhaustion first. Aduni found she could make it through a day without needing multiple naps. Then the brain fog lifted. She could think clearly, focus during board meetings, remember conversations. The weight loss came later, gradual but steady. 5 kilos the first month, 3 more the second month. But more than the physical changes, something else was happening. Something internal. Aduni was waking up. It started small. One morning, Demola made his usual comment at breakfast. "Are you really eating that? You know carbs go straight to your hips." And instead of the usual shame that would make her push her plate away, Aduni felt anger. Clean, bright, clarifying anger. "My doctor says I need to eat balanced meals," she said calmly, continuing to eat her yam and eggs. Demola blinked, surprised. She never talked back. "Your doctor doesn't have to look at you." "No, but I do. And I'm tired of hating what I see because you've convinced me I should." "Excuse me?" "You heard me." She stood up, plate in hand. "I'm going to eat this in my room. I've lost my appetite for your company." She walked out, heart pounding, half expecting him to follow and explode. He didn't. He was too shocked. And Aduni? Aduni felt powerful for the first time in years. It was a small thing. Tiny, really. But it was a crack in the dam. She started saying no. Small no's at first. No, she wouldn't cancel her doctor's appointment to attend a company dinner. No, she wouldn't wear the dress he picked out. She'd wear what made her comfortable. No, she wouldn't apologize for existing in a body he didn't approve of. Demola was baffled. His compliant, broken wife was suddenly developing a backbone. He tried doubling down on the cruelty, but it wasn't landing the same way. Because Aduni had something she'd lacked for 3 years, a support system. Yemi checked in constantly. Dr. Adebayo celebrated every small victory, and slowly, carefully, Aduni started reconnecting with her mother. "Mummy," she said during one visit, "I need to tell you something. About Demola. About everything." Mrs. Falaka Adeyemi listened to her daughter's confessions with growing horror and rage. "Why didn't you tell us?" she demanded, tears streaming down her face. "Why did you suffer alone?" "Because I was ashamed. Because I thought I deserved it. Because he made me believe I was the problem." Her mother pulled her into a fierce embrace. "You were never the problem. And we're going to fix this. All of it." 6 months after that first phone call to Yemi, Aduni barely recognized herself. Not because of how she looked, though she'd lost 20 kilos and counting. Her skin was clearing up, her hair was growing back thick and healthy. But because of how she felt. Strong, clear, angry, determined. Yemi had suggested therapy, and she'd started seeing Dr. Folashide, a psychologist who specialized in domestic abuse recovery. Those sessions were brutal, confronting the trauma, dismantling the lies Demola had planted in her mind, rebuilding her sense of self. But they worked. "I want to start going to the gym," Aduni told Yemi during one of their now regular coffee meetings. They'd fallen into an easy friendship, meeting weekly, talking about everything and nothing, laughing in ways she'd forgotten she could. "That's great, but remember, you don't have to." "I know," she interrupted. "I know I don't have to lose weight to be worthy. But I want to feel strong. I want my body to feel like mine again. Not his to criticize. Not society's to judge. Mine." Yemi's smile was proud. "Then, let's find you a good trainer." The trainer he connected her with, Kemi, was a former athlete who specialized in working with women recovering from trauma. She didn't push, didn't judge, just guided Aduni into rediscovering what her body could do. At first, Aduni could barely manage 10 minutes on the treadmill, but she kept going. 3 times a week, then 4, then 5. She started meal prepping with Dr. Adebayo's nutritionist, learning to nourish her body instead of punishing it. The changes were slow but undeniable. Her clothes started fitting differently. Her face in the mirror started looking like someone she vaguely remembered, someone from before. But the biggest change was internal. The constant voice in her head, Demola's voice, telling her she was worthless, ugly, pathetic, was getting quieter, replaced by her own voice. Stronger, clearer, angrier. Demola noticed. How could he not? "You're losing weight," he commented one evening, his tone suspicious rather than congratulatory. "Yes. How? Does it matter? Are you seeing someone?" The question was so absurd she almost laughed. "You mean like you've been seeing Vanessa and Jessica and whoever else?" "No, Demola. I'm just taking care of my health. Novel concept, I know. His eyes narrowed. You're different. I don't like it. I'm not asking for your approval anymore. Watch yourself, Aduni. Don't forget who controls everything in this marriage. Oh, I haven't forgotten. She met his gaze steadily. But maybe it's time you remembered exactly whose company you're running, whose father built it from nothing, whose generosity made you CEO in the first place. She walked away before he could respond, but she felt his eyes boring into her back. The war was no longer one-sided. She was starting to fight back, and that terrified him more than he'd ever admit. 9 months after reconnecting with Yemi, Aduni was a different person. She'd lost 35 kilos. Her face had slimmed, her cheekbones emerging like old friends she'd forgotten existed. She'd had her hair cut into a stylish bob. She'd started wearing clothes that fit, that flattered, that made her feel powerful. But more than that, she'd found herself again. The Aduni from before. The one who didn't apologize for taking up space. Yemi had been there for all of it. Celebrating every milestone, encouraging her through setbacks, making her laugh when she wanted to cry. Somewhere along the way, the friendship had shifted into something else. Something neither of them had named but both could feel. It was in the way his hand would linger on hers during their coffee meetings. The way she found herself thinking about him at odd moments. The way they could talk for hours, and it still never felt like enough time. One evening, they met for dinner at a small restaurant in Lekki. Aduni had told Demola she was at a board strategy meeting. He'd barely looked up from his phone to acknowledge it. You look beautiful, Yemi said when she arrived, and the way he said it, with genuine admiration, not as a statement of ownership, made her blush. Thank you. I actually feel beautiful. That's new. It's not new. You were always beautiful. You just forgot for a while. They ordered food, talked about their days, laughed about a ridiculous patient story Yemi shared. And then, during a lull in conversation, Yemi reached across the table and took her hand. Aduni, I need to tell you something. Her heart stopped. Okay? I think I'm falling for you. I know the timing is terrible. I know you're still married. I know everything is complicated, but I can't keep pretending this is just friendship. Not when I look at you and see my future. She stared at him, emotions warring inside her. Fear, joy, guilt, hope. I'm married, she whispered. I know. It's a disaster of a marriage, but legally. I know that too. Then why are you telling me this? Because you deserve to know that someone sees you. Really sees you. Not the woman Demola tried to convince you that you were. The real you. Brilliant, strong, beautiful, worthy. You deserve to be loved properly, Aduni. And if you'll let me, I'd like to be the one to do it. Tears streamed down her face. Yemi, I don't know if I remember how to be loved. He broke something in me. Then we'll figure it out together. No pressure, no timeline, just let me be here. Let me show you what love is supposed to look like. She squeezed his hand, unable to speak past the lump in her throat. That night, she went home to the mansion that felt like a prison, and she made a decision. She was done being Demola's victim. Done being a ghost in her own life. Done letting fear keep her trapped. It was time to take back everything he'd stolen. Her company, her dignity, her life, and it started with a phone call to her mother. Mummy, I need you to connect me with Daddy's lawyer, the one who handled all his estate planning. Why? What's wrong? Nothing's wrong. For the first time in years, something is about to go very, very right. Mr. Adeleke was in his 70s, a sharp-eyed lawyer who'd been Chief Adeyemi's trusted advisor for 40 years. When Aduni walked into his chambers in Ikoyi, he greeted her with grandfatherly warmth. Aduni, my dear, I was so sorry to hear about your father's passing last year. He was a great man. Thank you, sir. That's actually why I'm here. I need to review his will. Specifically, the clauses regarding Adeyemi holdings. Mr. Adeleke's bushy eyebrows rose. Did your husband not go over this with you? My husband went over a version. I want to see the original. Something flickered in the old lawyer's eyes. Understanding, maybe. Or confirmation of a suspicion. He pulled out a thick folder. Your father was very specific about his wishes. Let's review them together. As he walked her through the will, Aduni's hand started shaking. Wait. Go back. This clause here. The company shall be transferred to my daughter Aduni Folake Adeyemi upon my death, with management duties temporarily assigned to her spouse, contingent upon the marriage remaining intact, and the spouse acting in good faith as fiduciary. Yes, your father was quite clear. The company was always meant to be yours. Your husband is CEO, but you are the owner. But everything is in his name. He told me I signed it all over. Mr. Adelake's expression darkened. May I see the documents you signed? She pulled them out. Papers Demola had presented during their first year of marriage, papers she'd signed blindly because she trusted him. The lawyer reviewed them, his frown deepening. These are, Aduni, these documents are fraudulent. The signatures have been witnessed incorrectly, the clauses contradict your father's will, and more importantly, he pointed to a line of legal text. This was never filed with the Corporate Affairs Commission. These have no legal standing. The room spun. What are you saying? I'm saying your husband lied to you. You never legally transferred ownership. The company is yours. It has always been yours. He's been CEO, yes, but only as your employee, essentially. And given that clause about good faith, he looked at her seriously. If you can prove he hasn't been acting in your best interests, you can remove him. Immediately. Aduni couldn't breathe. Can you prove it? That the documents are fake? My dear, I don't have to prove it. The burden of proof is on him to show they're legitimate, and they're not. But if you want to proceed with this, you need to be prepared for war. Your husband will not go quietly. I know. Her voice was steady now, steel wrapped in silk. I'm counting on it. She left the lawyer's office with copies of everything, her mind racing. Demola had stolen 3 years of her life, her confidence, her health, her sense of self. But he hadn't stolen her company, because it was never his to take. That night she met Yemi at his apartment. When he opened the door, she walked in, pulled him close, and kissed him. It was a kiss of celebration, of reclamation. Of a woman who died and been resurrected, ready to burn down everything that had tried to bury her. When they finally broke apart, Yemi was smiling. What was that for? For believing in me. For seeing me. For helping me become myself again. What happened? She told him. All of it. The lawyer, the will, the fraudulent documents. I'm taking my company back, she said, her eyes blazing, and then I'm taking my life back. What do you need from me? Just be here. Be you. Remind me I'm worth fighting for. Always, he promised, and sealed it with another kiss. The pieces were falling into place. The resurrection was nearly complete. Now came the revenge. Before we continue, let me ask you something. Are you feeling this? If you're loving this story, hit that like button right now. Drop a comment telling me what you think Aduni should do to Demola. And more importantly, hit that subscribe button because we have more stories like this coming your way. Aduni didn't move rashly. She'd learned that lesson well. Impulsive decisions made out of love had cost her everything. This time, she would be calculated. Precise. Surgical. She assembled her team like a general preparing for battle. Mr. Adeleke, the lawyer, Yemi, her emotional anchor, her mother, who'd been waiting years for permission to unleash hell. And one more person she hadn't spoken to in far too long. Daddy's old business partner, Uncle Femi, she told her mother during their strategy session. Does he still own those shares in the company? Mrs. Adeyemi's eyes lit up with understanding. 15%? Your father left them to him as thanks for being there from the beginning. Call him. I need to know if he's willing to stand with me against Demola. The meeting with Chief Femi Oladipo happened at his estate in Ikoyi. He was in his late 60s, silver-haired and sharp as ever. When Aduni walked in, 35 kilos lighter, head held high, dressed in a power suit that hugged her transformed figure, he did a double take. Aduni? Is that you? Hello, Uncle Femi. He embraced her warmly, then held her at arm's length, studying her face. You look like your father. That same fire in your eyes. I wondered when it would come back. It took a while, she said, but it's back, and I need your help. She laid it all out. The abuse, the fraudulent documents, Demola's mismanagement that Uncle Femi had been too polite to mention, the affairs, everything. Chief Femi's expression grew darker with each revelation. I knew something was wrong. The board decisions he's been making, reckless, short-sighted. Your father built this company on integrity. That boy has been running it like his personal piggy bank. Can you prove it? My dear, I'm on the board. I have access to everything. Give me 2 weeks and I'll have enough evidence of financial mismanagement to bury him. 2 weeks, Aduni agreed. And Uncle Femi? Not a word to anyone, especially not to Demola. He won't see it coming, the old man promised, his smile wolfish, just like he didn't see you coming. While Uncle Femi gathered evidence and Mr. Adeleke prepared the legal documents, Aduni focused on the final piece of her transformation. She'd lost 42 kilos over the past year. Her body was lean, strong, carved by hours in the gym, and nourished by proper medical care and nutrition. But more than that, she'd rebuilt her mind. Therapy had helped her understand that Demola's abuse was never about her appearance. It was about control. About keeping her small so he could feel big. About destroying her so completely that she'd never realized she had the power to destroy him right back. But she realized now. Oh, how she realized. One Saturday morning, she went to the salon and had her hair done. Not the conservative-styled Demola preferred, but goddess braids that cascaded down her back, regal and unapologetic. Then, she went shopping. Not to the boutiques Demola's mistresses frequented, but to exclusive designers who specialized in powerful women. She bought clothes that fit her new body perfectly. Tailored pantsuits, elegant dresses, bold colors that made her feel invincible. When she came home, Demola was in the living room with his laptop, barely glancing up. Then he did a double take. What did you do? Aduni set down her shopping bags and smiled. The kind of smile a cat gives a mouse right before the pounce. I got my hair done. Do you like it? You look? He seemed to struggle for words, his usual criticism failing him because she looked objectively stunning. Different. I am different. She moved past him toward the stairs. I'm going to get changed. We have that charity gala tonight. I assume you'll be bringing Jessica? The casualness of her tone threw him. What? The gut? Your assistant. Isn't that how this works? You parade your mistresses around while I play the invisible wife? Aduni, I don't know what you're talking about. She laughed. A genuine, amused laugh that confused him more than anger would have. Demola, I'm not fighting with you. Bring whoever you want. I honestly don't care anymore. And that was what terrified him. Not her anger, her indifference. She'd been his punching bag for so long that he'd forgotten she was human, and humans, when pushed far enough, stop caring about their tormentors. They become dangerous. The Nigerian Children's Future Foundation Gala was Lagos's most prestigious charity event. 1,000 guests, all of high society, all dressed to impress. Demola arrived with Jessica on his arm, bold even for him, but he'd grown so arrogant he didn't care anymore. Aduni arrived alone, 30 minutes after him. The room didn't just notice. The room stopped. She wore an emerald green gown that hugged every curve of her transformed body. The same color she'd worn the night they met, but this time she wore it as armor. Her hair was swept to one side, her makeup flawless, her confidence radiating like a physical force. She looked like money, like power, like a woman who knew exactly who she was and what she was worth. The whisper started immediately. Is that Aduni Coker? Oh my God, what happened to her? She looks incredible. Demola spotted her from across the room, and for the first time in years she saw something other than disgust in his eyes. Want, regret, and the first flicker of fear. She smiled at him, cool, distant, and turned to greet other guests as if he didn't exist. Throughout the evening, men approached her. Men who'd ignored her for years, who'd watched Demola humiliate her without intervening, suddenly found her fascinating again. She was gracious but dismissive. She wasn't here for their validation. She was here to remind Demola what he'd lost, and more importantly, to remind Lagos society that she was still Chief Adeyeme's daughter. Still the owner of a multi-billion naira empire. Still relevant. Still powerful. Still here. Demola cornered her by the bar, Jessica conspicuously absent. "Can we talk?" "About what?" "About you. About this." He gestured at her. "You look amazing. I mean, you really did it. Lost all that weight." "Did I do it for you?" she asked sweetly. "Is that what you think?" I'm proud of you, baby. Really. Maybe we could what? Start over?" She laughed softly. "Demola, I didn't lose weight to win you back. I lost it because I was sick. Sick in my body from an actual medical condition you refused to believe in. And sick in my soul from a husband who made me believe I deserved to suffer." His jaw tightened. "I never." "You did. You know you did. And the funny thing is, I don't even hate you anymore. I pity you. Because you're about to lose everything, and you have no idea it's coming." "What are you talking about?" She leaned in close, her voice barely a whisper. "You'll find out soon enough. Enjoy your evening, Demola. Enjoy all of this while you still can." She walked away, leaving him standing there, confused and unsettled. Across the room, Yemi watched the interaction with pride. He'd attended as a medical consultant sponsor, and seeing Adini stand in her power, watching her refuse to be diminished, made him fall even more deeply in love with her. Later, they found a quiet corner, away from prying eyes. "You were magnificent tonight," he said, his hand finding hers. "I learned from the best," she replied, squeezing his fingers. "Thank you. For everything. For seeing me when I was invisible, for believing in me when I'd stopped believing in myself. I didn't do anything. You did all the work." "No," she turned to face him fully. "You gave me something I'd forgotten existed, hope, and then you gave me space to become myself again. That's everything, Yemi. That's everything." They stood there hand in hand, while across the room Demola watched with growing unease. Something had shifted, something fundamental, and for the first time since he'd married Aduni, Demola felt the ground beneath his feet start to crumble. 2 weeks later, Uncle Femi delivered. "It's worse than I thought," he told Aduni, spreading documents across her mother's dining table. Mr. Adeleke was there too, reviewing everything with a lawyer's sharp eye. "He's been embezzling, small amounts at first, but it escalated. Shell companies registered in his name, inflated vendor contracts that kick back to his personal accounts. He's siphoned off nearly 50 million naira over 3 years." Aduni's hands clenched. 50 million? That's not even the worst part. He's been taking out loans against company assets, loans you never authorized, to fund his lifestyle. The cars, the mistresses, the trips, all of it financed by your father's company. Mr. Adeleke looked up from the documents, his expression grim. "This is criminal. We're talking about fraud, embezzlement, possibly money laundering. If we take this to the authorities, he's looking at serious prison time." "No," Aduni said immediately. "I don't want him in prison. I want him destroyed, but free to live with his destruction. Prison would be too easy. I want him to face every day, knowing what he lost and having no one to blame but himself." "Then we do this the other way," Uncle Femi said. "We call an emergency board meeting, we present the evidence, we vote him out as CEO. And with Mr. Adelake's proof that the ownership transfer was fraudulent, you reclaim your position as owner and chairman." "When?" Aduni asked. "The board meets quarterly next week. We can call for an emergency session. I'll rally the other shareholders. Most of them are loyal to your father's memory, and they've been nervous about Demola's leadership for a while. "Do it," Aduni said, her voice steel. "It's time." The conference room at Adeyemi Holdings headquarters could seat 30 people. All 27 board members and shareholders were present, summoned by Uncle Femi's urgent message. Demola sat at the head of the table, his usual position, confident and irritated by the interruption. "What's this about, Femi? I have a meeting with investors in an hour." "Cancel it," Uncle Femi said curtly. "You won't be meeting with anyone after today." Demola frowned. "What are you talking about?" The conference room doors opened, and Aduni walked in, flanked by Mr. Adeleke and her mother. She wasn't the broken woman who'd sat silently through board meetings for 3 years, letting Demola speak for her. She was Chief Adeyemi's daughter, and she walked into that room like she owned it, because she did. "What is she doing here?" Demola demanded, his voice sharp with irritation. "Mrs. Adeyemi," Mr. Adeleke said formally, emphasizing her maiden name, "is here because this is her company. It has always been her company, and today she's taking it back." The room erupted in murmurs. Demola stood up, his face reddening. "This is ridiculous. Aduni signed everything over to me. I have the documents." "You have fraudulent documents," Mr. Adeleke interrupted, his voice cutting through the noise like a blade. He began distributing folders to each board member. "What you're receiving now is proof that the transfer documents Mr. Coker has claimed were valid are in fact legally worthless. They were never properly filed, the signatures were improperly witnessed, and they directly contradict Chief Solomon Adeyemi's will." Board members flipped through the documents, expressions shifting from confusion to shock to understanding. Furthermore, Uncle Femi added, standing up, "I've discovered extensive evidence of financial misconduct by Mr. Coker during his tenure as CEO. He presented the evidence methodically: the shell companies, the embezzlement, the unauthorized loans, the kickbacks." With each revelation, Demola's face went from red to pale to gray. This is a setup," he sputtered. "Aduni, baby, you can't believe." "Don't call me baby," Aduni said, her voice cutting through his panic like ice. "You lost that right when you called me an elephant, when you pushed me, when you paraded your mistresses in front of me, when you made me believe I deserved to die." The room went silent. "That's right," she continued, addressing the board now. "This man, this CEO you've all been deferring to, mentally, verbally, and physically abused me for 3 years. He took my father's company, the company I entrusted to him, and used it as his personal ATM while making me feel like I was worthless." She turned back to Demola and her smile was razor sharp. "But I'm not worthless, I'm worth billions, and every single naira of it is mine." Mr. Adeleke spoke up. "I move that we vote to remove Demola Coker as CEO effective immediately, pending investigation into the financial irregularities." "Seconded," Uncle Femi said immediately. "All in favor?" Mr. Adeleke called. Every hand in the room went up, every single one. "Motion carries. Mr. Coker, you are hereby removed as CEO of Adeyemi Holdings. You are to vacate your office immediately and surrender all company property, including credit cards, phones, and access credentials." Demola looked around the room wildly, seeking an ally. There were none. "This is my company," he said desperately. "I built this." "You built nothing," Aduni said quietly. "My father built this. I maintained it. You just stole from it." "Aduni, please, I'm your husband. We can work this out. I'll change. I promise I'll." "You're not my husband, not anymore." She pulled out papers from her purse. "These are divorce papers. You'll be served officially tomorrow, but I wanted you to see them now. I'm citing adultery, abuse, and fraud. You'll contest nothing, sign everything, and walk away quietly. In exchange, I won't press criminal charges." "You can't do this. I'll fight you." "You'll what?" Her voice was soft but deadly. "You'll drag this through court where every single one of your affairs will be documented, where your abuse will be testified to, where your embezzlement will be investigated by law enforcement. Please, Demola, try to fight me. See what happens." He opened his mouth, then closed it. The reality was sinking in. He had nothing. No leverage, no power, no way out. "Security will escort you from the building," Uncle Femi said, nodding to the two guards who'd entered. "Goodbye, Mr. Coker." As they let him out, shoulders slumped, face devastated, Aduni felt nothing. Not satisfaction, not anger, not even pity. Just peace. She turned to the board. "I'm assuming control of this company as its rightful owner and chairperson. We have work to do to repair the damage, but I promise you this. Adeyemi Holdings will return to the values my father built it on. Integrity, excellence, family." The board broke into applause. As they filed out, discussing next steps and offering congratulations, Aduni's mother pulled her aside. "Your father would be so proud of you," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. "I hope so, Mummy. I really hope so." Demola's fall was swift and brutal. The company cars? Repossessed. The corporate credit cards? Cancelled. The penthouse office? Cleared out. Within 48 hours he went from CEO of a multi-billionaire company to unemployed, with his assets frozen pending the divorce settlement. Vanessa, Jessica, and the other mistresses vanished the moment the money did. Turns out they'd been dating his wallet, not him. The mansion in Ikoyi? Still legally Aduni's, inherited from her father. He was given 2 weeks to vacate. His friends, the ones who'd laughed at his cruel jokes about his fat wife, suddenly stopped returning his calls. No one wants to associate with a failure, especially not one whose downfall was so public and so deserved. Demola moved into a one-bedroom apartment in Surulere, a decent area but a galaxy away from the luxury he'd grown accustomed to. He had some savings, but not much. Most of what he'd stolen had been spent maintaining his lifestyle. He tried calling Aduni. She'd changed her number. He tried showing up at the company. Security escorted him out. He tried reaching out through mutual friends. They all told him the same thing. "Leave her alone. You're lucky she didn't press charges." Within a month, Demola Coker, once the toast of Lagos society, was nobody. And Aduni was everywhere. Magazine covers, how Aduni Adeyemi reclaimed her empire. Business journals, new leadership at Adeyemi Holdings, a return to excellence. Society pages, Lagos's most eligible bachelorette, Aduni Adeyemi stuns it. She didn't do it for attention. She did it because she was living her life, fully, boldly, unapologetically. And everywhere Demola looked, there she was. Beautiful, successful, happy. Everything he'd tried to convince her she could never be. 3 months after the board meeting, Aduni officially started dating Yemi. Not in secret, not in shame, publicly, proudly. They were photographed at a medical conference in Accra, holding hands. They attended a charity gala together in Lagos, and Yemi's hand never left her waist. He looked at her the way Demola once had, before the mask slipped. But this time, Aduni knew the difference between performance and authenticity. Yemi didn't love her for what she could give him. He loved her for who she was. "Are you happy?" he asked her one evening as they sat on her balcony overlooking the Lagos lagoon. "Yes," she said, and meant it. "For the first time in years, I'm actually happy." "Good." He kissed her forehead. "You deserve everything good in this world. I'm not perfect, you know. I'm still healing, still figuring things out. Nobody's perfect, but you're perfect for me." They sat in comfortable silence, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and gold. Meanwhile, across town in his tiny apartment, Demola sat alone with a bottle of cheap whiskey, scrolling through Instagram photos of his ex-wife at various events, looking radiant. He'd tried to get jobs, other companies, startups, anywhere. But his reputation preceded him. The embezzlement, the abuse, the very public downfall. No one wanted him. He'd lost everything. The company, the woman, the life, and the worst part, he'd done it to himself. Every cruel word, every affair, every time he'd made her feel small so he could feel big. It had all come back to destroy him. He thought he was breaking her. But all along, he'd been building the weapon that would cut him down. The irony would have been funny if it weren't so devastating. His phone buzzed. A text from his landlord. "Rent due tomorrow. Please don't be late again." Demola looked at his bank balance. Barely enough to cover it, and nothing left for food until his next unemployment check. He thought about calling Aduni, begging her for mercy, for help, for anything. But pride, the only thing he had left, stopped him. Besides, he knew what she'd say. The same thing he'd told her 1,000 times when she'd begged for his love, his kindness, his basic human decency. "You're on your own." Karma, it turns out, has perfect memory and impeccable timing. And she was just getting started. Lagos has a way of moving on from scandals quickly. The city breathes drama, consumes it, and spits it out for the next story. But some stories linger. Some names become cautionary tales whispered at business lunches and society gatherings. Demola Coker's name was one of them. Remember that guy who married Chief Adeyemi's daughter and thought he could outsmart her? The one who abused her and got caught embezzling. Yes, I heard he's driving Uber now. The rumors were close to the truth. Demola wasn't driving Uber, he couldn't even afford the car rental deposit. But he was doing odd jobs, consulting gigs that paid pennies compared to his former CEO salary, living in a world that had forgotten he'd ever been somebody. His one-bedroom apartment in Surulere had become smaller with each passing month. The walls closing in like a physical manifestation of his failures. He'd tried to rebuild. Sent his CV to every company that would accept it. But the business world is small, and Lagos's elite circles are smaller. Everyone knew what he'd done. Everyone knew who he'd been. No one wanted to be associated with a man who'd abused his wife and stolen from her family's company. His parents, disappointed and ashamed, had cut him off financially. "You made your bed," his father had said coldly. "Now lie in it." His friends, the ones who'd enjoyed his money, his connections, his company, had all moved on to the next wealthy benefactor. Demola spent his days scrolling through social media, torturing himself with updates about Aduni's life. Aduni at a business summit in Dubai. Aduni featured in Forbes Africa's most influential women list. Aduni and Yemi at a movie premiere, her hand in his, both glowing with happiness. Aduni announcing a major expansion of Adeyemi Holdings into renewable energy. Aduni. 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 She was everywhere, thriving, glowing, living her best life. And him? He was nowhere. A ghost haunting the margins of a city that had erased him. It was a Tuesday afternoon when Demola's landlord knocked on his door. "Mr. Coker, we need to talk." Demola knew what was coming. He was 3 months behind on rent. His last consulting check had gone to buying food, and there was nothing left. "I need more time," he said, not even bothering to open the door fully. "I've given you time, 3 months' worth. I have other tenants interested in this apartment. I need you out by the end of the week." "Where am I supposed to go?" The landlord shrugged, not unkindly, just practically. "That's not my problem. I'm sorry, but business is business." After he left, Demola sat on his threadbare couch and stared at the ceiling. 7 months ago, he'd been a CEO. He'd had multiple cars, a mansion, respect, power. Now he was about to be homeless. How had it come to this? He knew how. Every decision, every cruel word, every affair, every stolen naira, they'd all led here. To this moment. To this crushing, inescapable reality. He pulled out his phone and did something he'd sworn he wouldn't do. He looked up Aduni's current address. She'd moved out of the Ikoyi mansion, too many bad memories probably. According to the property records he found online, public information for the wealthy, she now lived in a new estate, a ridiculous palatial home in Banana Island. Of course she did, an idea began forming, desperate, pathetic. But what did he have left to lose? He'd go to her. He'd apologize, really apologize. He'd beg for forgiveness, for another chance, for anything. Maybe she'd feel sorry for him. Maybe she'd remember when they were happy. Maybe she'd help him get back on his feet. It was a long shot, but it was the only shot he had. Demola couldn't afford an Uber to Banana Island. He barely had enough money for a bus to the nearest point, then walked the rest of the way. It was late afternoon when he started. By the time he reached her street, the sun was setting, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple. The houses in Banana Island weren't just homes, they were statements, each one more elaborate than the last, announcing wealth and status in architectural form. Aduni's new house was near the end of a cul-de-sac, modern, elegant, with floor-to-ceiling windows and a circular driveway. Security lights illuminated the property like something from a dream, or a nightmare, depending on your perspective. Demola stood outside the gate for a long time, gathering courage. Then the sky opened up. Lagos rain doesn't start gently. It comes all at once, a deluge that soaks you to the bone in seconds. Demola stood there, getting drenched, staring at the intercom button. This was it, his last chance, his final play. He pressed the button. Nothing happened for a long moment. Then a voice crackled through, not Aduni's, a man's voice. "Can I help you? I need to speak to Aduni. It's Demola, her husband." "Ex-husband," the voice corrected coolly, "and she's not interested in speaking with you. Please, just 5 minutes, I need to talk to her." Mr. Coker, Ms. Adeyemi has made her position very clear. She has nothing to say to you, and you need to leave this property immediately." "Who are you?" Demola demanded, anger flashing through his desperation. "Where is my wife?" "I'm her partner," the voice said calmly, "and she's not your wife. She hasn't been for months. The divorce was finalized last week." The words hit like a physical blow. Finalized. Over. Done. No, please, I just need to talk to her. Tell her I'm sorry. Tell her I've changed. Tell her yourself." The voice interrupted. "She's standing right here." There was a pause, and then Aduni's voice came through the intercom. Calm, cold, final. "Demola." "Aduni, baby, thank God. Listen, I know I messed up. I know I hurt you. But I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I've lost everything, and I realize now that the biggest thing I lost was you. Please, can we just talk face to face?" No, the single word was like a door slamming shut. "Please, I'm homeless. I have nothing. I'm begging you." "You're begging me?" Her voice was sharp now, cutting through the rain and the intercom static. "You're begging me for help? After everything you did? I know I don't deserve it, but please." "You're right. You don't deserve it. You don't deserve my help, my forgiveness, or even this conversation. Aduni, I'm your husband. You were my husband. Past tense, that part of my life is over. You made sure of that when you called me an elephant, when you pushed me, when you paraded your mistresses in my face, when you made me feel so worthless that I tried to kill myself. 3 times, Demola. 3 times I tried to end my life because of you." Her voice cracked slightly on the last sentence, and for a moment, Demola felt a spark of hope. She still felt something. "But you know what?" Aduni continued, her voice steadying. I'm grateful. I'm grateful you showed me who you really were, because it forced me to remember who I am. The daughter of Chief Solomon Adeyemi, a woman of worth, of strength, of power. Everything you tried to beat out of me, I found again, and I'm never losing it again." "I've changed," Demola said desperately. "I swear I have. Losing everything taught me." "It taught you nothing," she interrupted. "You're not sorry you hurt me. You're sorry you lost your meal ticket. You're sorry you got caught. You're sorry you're facing consequences. But you're not sorry for what you did to me. If I took you back, gave you another chance, you'd do it all over again the moment you felt secure. That's not true." "It is, and we both know it. Goodbye, Demola." "Wait, please, I have nowhere to go. I'm getting evicted. I can't even afford food. You have so much, surely you could." "Could what? Give you money? Give you a place to stay?" Her laugh was bitter. "You remember what you told me when I begged you to stop hurting me? When I pleaded for you to just be kind? You said, deal with it. So that's my advice to you now. Deal with it." Through the gate, Demola could see movement in the house, a silhouette in one of the large windows. Aduni, standing there. and next to her, a man's arm wrapping around her shoulders protectively. Yemi. Demola's hands clenched into fists. So you've replaced me? That's what this is about? You found some doctor, and now you think you're better than me? I don't think I'm better than you, Demola. I know I'm better than what you made me believe I was. There's a difference. And yes, I've moved on. With someone who actually loves me, who sees me as a partner, not a possession, who lifts me up instead of tearing me down. I loved you. No, Aduni said softly. You loved what I could give you, the company, the status, the money. You never loved me. And honestly, I don't think you're capable of loving anyone but yourself. That's not fair. Fair? Her voice rose slightly. You want to talk about fair? Was it fair when you pushed me? When you called me disgusting? When you made me hate myself so much that I swallowed pills hoping I wouldn't wake up? When you stole from my father's company? When you spent 50 million naira on mistresses while telling me we couldn't afford my medical treatments? Demola had no answer. You made your choices, Demola. Every single one of them. And now you get to live with the consequences. Just like I had to live with the consequences of trusting you. So that's it? You're just going to let me suffer? I'm not letting you do anything. Your suffering is your own creation. I'm simply refusing to save you from it. There's a difference. The rain was coming down harder now, and Demola was shivering, soaked through, broken. Please, he whispered one last time. Please, Aduni. There was a long pause. For a moment, just a moment, Demola thought maybe, security will escort you off the premises if you're not gone in 2 minutes, Aduni said. Goodbye, Demola. I truly hope you find whatever it is you're looking for, but you won't find it here, not with me, not ever again. The intercom went dead. Demola pressed the button again, and again, and again. No response. He sank down against the gate, rain streaming down his face mixing with tears, and finally, the full weight of what he'd lost crashed down on him. Not just the money or the status, but her. The woman who'd loved him unconditionally, who'd given him everything, who'd been willing to die rather than live without his love. He'd had something priceless and he'd thrown it away for what? For ego, for conquests, for the thrill of power. And now here he was, homeless, jobless, alone. While she was inside that beautiful house, warm and dry, wrapped in the arms of a man who actually deserved her. Security guards appeared at the gate. Sir, you need to leave now. Demola stood on shaking legs and walked away, his footsteps splashing through puddles, his future as murky and dark as the rain-soaked streets. Behind him the gates remained closed. The lights in Aduni's house glowed warm and inviting, but not for him, never again for him. Aduni stood at the window, watching Demola's retreating figure until he disappeared into the darkness. Yemi's arms were around her and she leaned back into his warmth. Are you okay? He asked gently. She said, and meant it. I thought I'd feel something, satisfaction maybe, or vindication, but I just feel free. That's good, that's healthy. Is it bad that part of me wanted to help him? Just for a second? No, Yemi said, kissing the top of her head. It means you're a good person. But you're also a smart person. You know that helping him wouldn't actually help him. It would just enable him to keep being the same person who hurt you. He has to learn, Aduni murmured, even if it's the hard way. He will, or he won't. Either way, it's not your responsibility anymore. She turned in his arms to face him. Thank you, for being here. For being you. Always, he promised, and kissed her. From upstairs, Tomiwa's voice called out, Mummy, Uncle Yemi, come watch the movie with me. Aduni smiled, coming, baby. They left the window, the view of the rain-soaked street and the ghost of her past behind. She had a daughter to tuck in, a partner who loved her, a company to run, a life to live. The past was exactly that, past. And the future? The future was hers to write. The wedding was small, intimate, just family and close friends at a private beach resort in Zanzibar. Aduni wore cream, a flowing dress that made her look like a goddess rising from the ocean. Her natural hair was out, full and glorious, crowned with fresh flowers. Yemi couldn't stop smiling as she walked down the aisle toward him. "You're staring," she teased when she reached him. "Can you blame me?" he whispered back. "You're the most beautiful thing I've ever seen." The ceremony was simple but heartfelt. When they exchanged rings, Tomiwa stood between them, giggling with joy at having a real daddy now. "I, Aduni Folake Adeyemi," she said, her voice strong and clear, "take you, Oluyemi Adewale, to be my husband, to love you, respect you, and build a life with you, to be your partner in everything, to stand beside you, not behind you or in front of you, but beside you, always." "I, Oluyemi Adewale," Yemi said, his eyes glistening, "take you, Aduni Folake Adeyemi, to be my wife, to cherish you exactly as you are, to remind you of your worth every single day, to protect your peace, to celebrate your success, to be the partner you deserve. Always." When they kissed, everyone cheered. Later, at the reception, Aduni's mother pulled her aside. "Your father would have loved him," she said, tears streaming down her face. "I know, Mummy. I know. And he would have been so proud of you, of everything you've become, everything you've overcome. I couldn't have done it without you." "Yes, you could have, but I'm glad you didn't have to." They embraced, and for a moment, Aduni let herself feel the full weight of her journey. From the broken woman who tried to end her life, to this, standing in the sun, surrounded by love, living a life she'd once thought impossible. Someone asked about Demola. She heard it in passing, a guest who didn't know better. "Whatever happened to her first husband? Who cares?" someone else responded. "He was nobody anyway." And that was the truth of it. Demola Coker had become exactly what he'd once made Aduni feel like: irrelevant, forgotten, a cautionary tale that people barely remembered. Meanwhile, Aduni Adeyemi, no, Aduni Adewale now, was living her best life. Running her father's company with integrity and vision, raising a daughter who would grow up knowing her worth, loving a man who saw her, really saw her, and loved what he saw. She'd gone into the fire and come out forged in steel. She'd been broken and rebuilt herself stronger. She'd been mocked, diminished, and nearly destroyed, but she'd survived. More than survived. She'd won. Not because she'd gotten revenge, though that had been satisfying, but because she'd reclaimed herself. Her power, her joy, her life. And that was the ultimate victory. As the sun set over the Indian Ocean, painting the sky in brilliant colors, Yemi pulled her onto the dance floor. "Happy?" he asked. "Incredibly," she said, and meant it with every fiber of her being. "Good. Because this, you and me and Tomiwa and whatever adventures come next, this is just the beginning." "The beginning," she agreed, resting her head on his shoulder. "I like the sound of that." Somewhere in Lagos, in a cramped room in a shared apartment in a neighborhood whose name didn't matter, Demola Coker scrolled through Instagram and saw the wedding photos. He stared at them for a long time, at Aduni's smile, at her happiness, at everything he'd lost. Then he closed the app and sat in the darkness, living with his choices. Some lessons come easy, some come hard, and some come too late. His had come too late. But hers had come right on time. And that, my friends, is the story of how one woman went from being mocked and broken to taking back everything that was stolen from her. If this story touched you, if it made you feel something, if you know someone who needs to hear it, share it, like it, comment below and tell me, what would you have done in Aduni's position? And if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button. We have so many more stories like this. Stories about justice, about karma, about people who refuse to stay down. Stories that will make you laugh, cry, and cheer. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being part of this community. And remember, your worth is not determined by how others treat you. It's determined by how you treat yourself. Stay strong, stay blessed, and I'll see you in the next story.